So the first thing you want to do is create your Arc server directory. In there you want to download SteamCMD and create an Arc update or install file. I have both of those in the links in the description. Then you want to create a SteamCMD folder, and I've run multiple servers, so my SteamCMD folder is outside of my server folder. Put both of those files, and I'm going to show you the SteamCMD. Install is very simple. The batch file is very simple. So we're going to put both of those in our SteamCMD folder. From there, we want to run our SteamCMD. To do this, normally I copy the path to the directory, open up the command prompt, type in cd space and paste the path there, and just simply type in SteamCMD and it runs. This only takes a couple of minutes to do, and once it completes, you'll be at a Steam prompt. You can simply type exit and close your command prompt window. Then we're going to run the Steam update file or the install file. Now this does take a long time. This is a 10 or 15 minute, even on a high-speed connection, this is a 10 or 15 minute install. So you want to do that. Once it's complete, it will exit out by itself, and we will get started on setting up the INI files and the start Arc batch. Now that our server is installed, we're going to go look at the start Arc batch file, which I have down in the description. There are a lot of command switches in here. Those are because they will pre-populate the INI files that we will use. Notice also I have used not the default port, and you can do this as well. You can use any port that is available to you. You do not have to use the default port. You just have to make sure it matches whatever you put in your firewall. So we're going to look at some of the switches here. Notice we're loading the island. There's all the other maps if you want to use them. I have them also in the description. And then we're going to run this file. Oh, I'm sorry, we need to save it first. And you need to save it in the server directory, in the binaries, under Win64. It has to be in the same directory as the shooter game exe. So we're going to save it there. Once it's saved, we're going to run it one time so that it populates our INI files for us before we ever get on the server. So this also takes a long time to load. You'll see here where it took 344 seconds. I'm sorry, 228 seconds, that's the version number. 228 seconds to load, which is several minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. And it takes another 3-4 minutes to finish loading, to give us a good prompt that everything is started correctly. You will get a get hostname failed. This does not affect Windows. This is only for Linux. It has given us a default name, and you see there at the bottom we have a full startup at 285 seconds, so it does take a while. And the number, of course, that it's applied to running the game. So once that is complete, we're going to get into our INI files. Okay, now we're going to look at the INI files once we've loaded our server the first time. And you'll notice we'll get into the INI file. A lot of these command switches are pre-populated in the INI file. Here are the server settings on how we want to play the game. These are all the multipliers and difficulties of the game itself. My friends and I, we modify several of these simply to make it feel like it's more of a official server feel. So I have a link in the description of the wiki that gives you all these details about which these multipliers and how they are applied and what they affect. These are the ones that we changed, especially harvest multiplier, because I'm tired. You get tired of beating up, 30 trees and get 100 wood. So we increase that. We double that. We do lower the multiplier for food drain, water drain, so you're not having to drink and eat every 5 seconds. So you're not, trying to tame something on a mountain, and all of a sudden, you're out of water bottles and you got to find water. So it does give you a little more time, so it's kind of nice. And we only reduce it by half. We do change some of the dino multipliers, not many of them. But we don't like I don't like my dinos. I like taming all the tech ones because I think they're pretty, but and I don't like my dinos just rando dying. Message of the day, that's my favorite thing. I always put in something, try to be something cute, something that'll make the guys laugh when they join. It's up to you whether you put this in there or not, and it can be useful for a lot of other things too. So here's the INI file that is directly affected by the start batch file, the start arc file. And a lot of these, what I'll do is a lot of these switches I'll put in the start arc file, so when I run it that first time, it'll pre-populate a lot of these, and then I simply go through my start arc file and find those. As you see, I marked them in blue, and then I'll make sure I take them out of my start arc file, because the bigger that file is, it just seems the longer it takes to load. I don't know if that's true. I haven't scienced it yet, but it does seem to me to make a difference. So it's a quicker load if you take all those out. It doesn't have to process them. And then it checks the INI file to see if it's loaded or not, and it is, so it ignores it and moves on to the next one. So we want to get your start arc file as small as possible. Structure pickup time, I normally put it at 60 seconds, but it's a moot point if you do the always allow structure pickup to be true. Then you'll always be able to pick up your structures. We want to be able to carry friendlies in PvE, so we allow flyer carry. And we allow cave building. Yeah, and to be able to build near supply drops. And I was trying to build a diving board and couldn't figure out why I couldn't extend it, and it's because the supply drop falls down there. It took me forever. It was the weirdest looking diving board by the time I was done, until I found this switch. Cave building, so we can put beds at the mouth of a cave so we don't have to spawn all the way back at home or back at base. And there's not much in it. Again, I have the switch, the link to the wikis that'll tell you what all this means. I do disable the character items simply because it becomes a pain after dying 3 or 4 times. You got to empty all that stuff out all the time. And then, of course, want to change your session name. That is a switch for some reason I missed in the start arc file. You can put that command in the start arc file, and it will automatically populate that for you. And the maximum players, you can also put in the start arc file, and it will populate that as well. And you can have as many people as you like. You can set it to whatever you like. And depending on your machine, if you got something like an i9, well, you might be able to handle 70 players. I use little i5s in clusters so that you will do 5 or 10 at a time. So once that's done, we're going to run our server again, and once we have positive good start, and again you'll see get hostname failed, you'll always get that. It did recognize my Arc server, and we have a full startup, 215 seconds. So again, it does take a little bit of time. So let's connect to our Arc server. Okay, once we have a good startup of our Arc server, we want to connect via Steam. Go under View Servers, and we're going to add a server. And we're going to put in the IP address of our server. These are the same. This is exactly the same way you want your friends to join. So you're going to give them your external IP address and the port that you forwarded to your server, whatever in this case is 27022 or whatever you made it. Go ahead and add it to your favorites. Now if you try to connect now, even though it says it sees it, if you try to connect now, it's probably going to give you some kind of error. Yep, sure does. It tells you there's no game playing currently. And we know there is, so what we do is you just simply refresh a couple of times, once or twice, until it does connect. And there we are. The password prompt is a definitive key that says the server is working properly. If you're getting the server password prompt and your friends are not, there's probably something wrong on their end. It could be syntax in the way they put in the IP address, could put in the wrong port, could be a lot of things. If you have your friends connect exactly like this, they will always be able to connect. I have several friends out on the West Coast, I live on the East Coast, that connect, and they connect just fine. And I've had every one of them connect this way. So let's get that started. Come on, Arc, let's do this. So we're connecting to our server, and it should. Now it will not go straight into the game, and you will see some query errors. That's okay. Simply go in. Sometimes you have to hit refresh here as well. So you just accept the errors, go back into join, and again it sees our server because it's prompting for our password. Then I normally go in and remove the password so we don't have to keep doing that every time we want to join. But doing it this way automatically saves your private server in their favorites. So all they have to do is go into and join last session, and it pops them right in there. And they don't have to go through Steam every time. They can just pull up Arc. It'll be listed in their favorites. Join last session, boom, and they're on. Especially if you get rid of the password. Now, if you're worried about randos online, then you can keep your password in there. All right, Arc does take a long time to load, but I love this game. My daughter and I played it years ago. Now that she's grown, we don't play it as often. But I do, like I say, I have friends on the West Coast that join, and this is better than an official server because we can do what we want. I don't have to worry about community guidelines. And we do set limits and boundaries on the server of what you can and can't do for the player because we don't want excess cheating. So it's loading, and then it'll load us into our character creator. And once it does that, you're good to go. And it's still loading. And there's our character creator. There's our message of the day. Enjoy your Arc server.